Welcome, Falcon fans. Hello, everyone out there in Falcon Land in the Falcon verse. It's your host, T Will, and Mr. Scott Karisic. And this is What the Falcon, man. What the Falcon, episode 2. So, we are talking about our beloved Falcons today and everything that is going on. And it just wouldn't be a Falcon day without talking about our guy, Kirk Cousins. But first, Scott, how you doing, man? You all right?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. I got no complaints. Woke up this morning and hey man, sometimes that's all you need. So let's get into it, Scott. Kirk Cousins, or as my buddy from Out of Your Falcon Mind says, Dirk Bludgeons. He's so over Kirk he doesn't want to call his name anymore.
Fair
Stated
enough.
this week that he doesn't want to be drafted before the draft to assure that he doesn't have to essentially go to a team with another quarterback waiting in the wings. So, in this much talked about, much bandied about back and forth between Kirk and Terry and the Falcons, here we go. Kirk striking another blow. Now, look it, man. Our producer Carrie is so over Kirk. When you say his name, she almost looks like she wants to vomit. I don't know that I'm that far, but I'm ready for this to be done. I'm hearing that you can share a little bit of information, not everything in granular detail, but there may be relief on the horizon. Is that correct, Scott?
So that Slick Rick thing that came out that the Browns are pushing for Kirk and all of that. There's also rumor that the Browns are looking to get Abdul Carter at 2 and not take a quarterback at 2. So when you kind of put it together and then you look at the money, because again, follow the money. The big possibility that I'm thinking of here, the Falcons trade Kirk with his full contract. But if they're going to do that, they're going to have to pull a full contract back. The Browns have a contract they're trying to get rid of in Greg Newsome, who could play slot receiver here in Atlanta and has played 1,000 yards or 1,000 snaps of slot to his 1,000 snaps of outside corner. All I'm saying is Atlanta needs a slot corner. They want a quarterback over there in Cleveland. Kirk, straight up, take his whole contract. We take back the $13 million directly that's owed to Greg Newsome. And now we have a slot corner and they have a quarterback. Everybody's happy. Atlanta, day 3, drafts a backup in like the 6th or the 7th. And you just keep it rolling. And I think that's the best way to go long-term for this Falcons franchise. And it benefits the Browns because they get a quarterback, right? Browns get a quarterback. Corner who can come in, play. And if he doesn't work out, you send him away for a 5th or a 6th in 2026 or even a conditional 7th in 2026 to whoever would want to trade for him. But I think that is probably your best bet. You're muted, Terry.
I'm over here speaking whole sentences like, oh, yeah, da, da, da. Okay, sorry, guys. Sorry, everybody in the chat. Let's do a little housekeeping. Sorry about that. Rookie move. All right, so we got Deshaun. What's up, T. Will? Yeet, get some. What up, Deshaun? We got Marty Carlo. Let's get it popping. Carlo, how you doing? We got DSGB Hall. T. Will, the most busiest man on YouTube. What's good, Sky? Yeah, I'm a little busy. I am a little busy. All right, so, and this would happen the day of the draft or day after? Is that what we're saying?
I'm thinking it would happen day 2 of the draft, right?
Okay.
Like after after Cleveland says, you know what, we took Abdul Carter, we didn't trade up into the bottom of the first round for a quarterback. I don't think Kirk's going to feel threatened if they take a guy day 2, right? It'll be like, all right, well, I'm 38 years old, and they took a guy day 2 to learn from me for 2 years. I'll restructure my deal, and everybody will be happy. So I could see that being a situation that is profitable for both sides.
Do you think Kirk would? And I know it's a ridiculous question to you and I, because obviously we get it and we understand. But after Kirk's ordeal, and I'm not saying who's wrong. Look, I'm at this point, I just want to move along. I'll play traffic cop, school principal, whatever you want me to do. But my question is, Scott, do you think that Kirk, with his PTSD after Penix being drafted as the Falcons' #1 pick after leaving Minnesota because they were going to do the same thing, do you think he could handle them taking a quarterback in the second round, or would it have to be like maybe, I don't know, 5th, 6th round? Like, you think?
I mean, I'm thinking, hey, Kenny Pickett, like, I know you kind of suck, so we'll be okay. But, I mean, when you're talking second-round quarterbacks in this draft, you're looking at essentially the 2022 draft caliber guys. I mean, we're talking like Quinn Ewers, right? Quinn Ewers ain't taking his job.
Okay.
Not for 2 years, no. So it might be a situation where they find the next Kirk Cousins in the 3rd or 4th round. Because if they take a guy in the 3rd round, Kirk's going to be like, "Listen, I can work with this."
Okay, all right.
We can make that work.
Auntie Pam says, "Hello, fellas," and everyone in the chat. Didn't mean to cut you off, Scott. Auntie Pam says, "Hello, fellas," and everyone in the chat. Happy Hump Day. John from Out of Your Falcon Mind says, "Evening, fellas." Dirk Smudgeons T. Yeah, that's right. His new name, Scott, is Dirk Smudgeons. We're not even calling him Kirk anymore. It's Dirk Smudgeons. Dirk Smudgeons, everybody. That's his name. All right.
Well, hopefully after this next month, we don't ever have to say his name again.
Ever, never, ever in the history of ever do we have to say Kirk's name again. What a relief that would be. All right, so there's a rumor, Scott, and, I love a good rumor, as Carrie would say. Carrie says I'm filled with the drama. I don't think so. I just like a good, entertaining show, Scott, but whatever. Falcons went to see Mike Green.
Yeah.
So, and I mean,
I was either fed bad info on the stuff they were worried about, which it happens, or they've done a little bit more research since, and they've said, you know what? It's not as big of a deal as we think it is. It might be the wrong crowd thing versus the other thing. So they are definitely interested.
Or
they are definitely interested.
Walk with me for a sec, Scott. Just let's go into the world of make-believe. Could it be
NFL teams are not some conspiracy theory? If they're at a player's
let's have a little fun, Scott. Let's have a little fun.
No, if you send a head coach to a player's pro day, you are interested.
So there's no Mission Impossible. There's no Tom Cruise. There's no Ethan Hunt.
No.
You're saying to me this is not Cloak and Dagger. This isn't
No, all this is saying is he's on the board and they like him, right? They did the same thing with Jahad Campbell. They did the same thing with the 3 Georgia guys, Starks, Walker, and Michael. They weren't as heavy at Texas A&M, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which says that they may not see the Texas A&M guys as either going to be there at 15 or high enough on their board at 15, right?
Mm.
They might say, yeah, Shamar Stewart could be a beast, but it's going to take 3 years to develop him.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely not.
That's my view on Shamar Stewart. He could be a beast, but do you have 3 years? Is your coaching staff strong enough for 3 years to work with this cat?
I don't think so. I don't think we are. No. All right. So definitely no Mission Impossible, no Cloak and Dagger. We're not going there just to put it in the minds of other NFL teams, so they'll trade up to 15 so we can get a nice package. We're not doing that. We're definitely interested in Mike Green. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right.
Again, I'm not saying that they're like guaranteed going to take him at 15 either. This could also potentially be a trade down target, right? Let's say that they get the offer from, I don't know, Pittsburgh or the Chargers or the Buffalo Bills, and they're like, hey, we want to come up. All right, we'll give us these picks and we'll just do a pick for pick swap. They trade down to 21, 22, and they take Mike Green at 22. Also a very, very good possibility of that could be the situation here. Which, like, hey, at 15, we're not fully comfortable, but at 22 will work. You know, we can work with it. We think he's going to be good. We just don't feel like we want to get him and this 3rd, 4th, and 6th rounder, right? So that's where I could see that being the difference. Yeah. Again, that's all I see it as. Jahad Campbell also, you know, another guy they liked. So they also like a lot of the defensive backs. They really like Jahdae Barron, another trade down target versus a take at 15 kind of guy. So there's options. I just don't think they're going to be locked, like super locked in on one guy this year. I think last year they were super locked in on London or on Penix. Year before they were super locked in on Bijan. Year before, everybody and their brother knew it was London.
Yeah.
Like I kept saying, like, I know it's not Garrett Wilson. I know if they take a wide receiver, it's Drake London. Like, and they took Drake London. I'm like, that makes sense.
I'm glad they did.
2021, everybody and their brother knew it was Pitts. I don't think they're that locked in on a single guy this year because they're also not picking high enough where they can be locked in on a single guy like that.
Yeah.
So that's just going out with that.
Okay.
But yeah, no, this isn't some shadow game or anything crazy. If Green goes before them, they'll be okay. They'll be like, yeah, we got other guys on our board we like too. There's like 12 different ways they could go, which is why trading down actually makes a lot of sense.
Okay. That's fair. All right. If we trade back, is edge rusher a must-have in the first round?
No.
Okay.
No. When you focus too much on one position and say, hey, I have to take this position, that's when you end up reaching. That's when you end up not getting a stud. If you focus on, hey, let me look at my board and let me see my board and let me take the best player on my board. Now, if it's an edge rusher versus an inside linebacker versus a corner versus a defensive lineman, and all those guys have the exact same grade, maybe you go with the edge rusher, or if you want to help this pass rush, a defensive tackle isn't a bad move, right? So maybe you get a Kenneth Grant, and you're like, you know what? Our edge rushers are slightly below here. Our defensive tackle, Kenneth Grant, right here, like he's top 15, top 10 grade. Let's just take Kenneth Grant. No one in Falcons land could be mad at that pick because it is still a pass rusher. It is still a guy who is going to help your pass rush. It's just a bigger, fatter guy who might only get 6 sacks. But pass rush, and I'm going to use Leonard Floyd's example here, pass rush is a basketball team. It's rotational. It's positional. When you're sending those 4 or 5 guys, your center, your big nose tackle in the middle, who should be eating a double team. You've got your power forward, your under tackle, your Grady Jarrett, your 3 technique. Rod Coleman, another great example from Falcon land. Aaron Donald, for those that aren't sure. For guys that aren't short, stout guys, and you want that tall, skinnier guy who compares more to Rook, Gerald McCoy. Rook's ceiling is Gerald McCoy.
Okay.
So if they think that Rook is Gerald McCoy and they've got a big fat, Haloti Nada type right next to him, which is who Grant compares to, they're going to be able to push the pocket in the middle. And if you can push the pocket in the middle and focus those single teams, it doesn't matter if it's Leonard Floyd and AK out there rushing the passer. They could still get 10 sacks each.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to file that away because there's something I want to go over today. It's interesting the way you put that and you put that together. So I'm gonna bring that back up to you. Let's see here. Draco. I think his contract expires in 2026 is last year.
so
Is it time to extend him now, or should we wait when it's going to cost us more? Go ahead.
He's entering the fourth year of his 4-year deal. Technically, they will probably accept his 5th-year option when those numbers get announced to the teams.
Okay.
And by the deadline, of course. And it wouldn't shock me if they were like, yeah, let's just go ahead and extend him now. Because I think if you wait to extend him and he puts up 1,500 yards, 100 catches, 10 touchdowns this year, you got no shot at extending him on a reasonable dime. On the bright side, if you trade away Kirk and you get that contract off your books, you got $100 million to play with next year, like on next year's cap. Might as well go ahead and just extend Draco now.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that 100%. Let's go ahead and get it out the way. Get it out the way. That way you'll have Draco. You got Bijan in house. You got Penix. Hey man, you got the triplets.
Yeah.
Let's work everything out. Work everything else out.
Might as well do that. And then to extend onto that with Pitts, if Pitts has a good year after this year, yeah, you extend him, but you might just franchise him at $15 million a year. Because tight ends are cheap. Would you extend
Pitts?
I would have already extended him now. I would have been cheaper on it and very incentive laden. Like, listen, base deal, $8 million a year, next 3 years. And then including this year, obviously, so it'd be a 4-year total deal, 32 base. But then I would have been like, if you hit the Pro Bowl, $2 million. If you hit 80 receptions, $2 million. If you hit 1,000 yards, $2 million. You hit 7 touchdowns, which he's never done in his career, $2 million. Now, if you're going out there, you're hitting 80 yards, 1,000 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns a year, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns a year with 80 catches. That's $6 million. You're obviously going to be going to the Pro Bowl. He's making $8 million in incentives, and then he's making the $16 million that the lead guy in his group is already making.
Okay.
So it doesn't even really matter at that point because you're like, listen, I'm getting what I paid for.
Okay. That's fair.
And maybe you stage the incentive like $500K for 600 yards, another 7, another 500 for 850, and then the last 500K at 4 touchdowns, 500K at 5, 500K at 6, 500K at 7. And then each touchdown he scores, he's killing it, right?
Yeah. So it's tiered, by the way. It's basically a tiered incentive program. Okay.
So like at 65, he gets 500, 70, 500, 75, 500, 80, 500. Because he's going to go out there and work for those 80 catches, which for a tight end's a lot.
And obviously, maybe that's what we need from Kyle. I mean, especially after the "I just work here" comment. Maybe if you give him an incentive-laden contract, maybe that's a motivator for him. Look, everybody's not motivated by winning. Some people it's about the money.
That wasn't what that was about. That wasn't what that was about.
I just work here,
I
man.
just
Don't ask me questions
I
about
just
these
work
two quarterbacks. I just work here.
He was like, no, that wasn't what that was about, because this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would have been his 6th quarterback in a Falcons uniform.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's just like, man, I just work here. I go out there and catch the ball that's thrown to me.
Right.
People were like, oh, he works here. No, he's saying he has no control over the quarterbacks, and y'all completely misinterpreted everything he was saying. He wasn't saying like, oh no, I just work here. Like I don't care about
get it. I get it, but when you don't run routes, like when you're not basically his and fair or not, I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying his reputation is that he doesn't work hard on the field. You're not where you're supposed to be. You don't know your assignments, and fair or not, that's his reputation. So when you make that statement, it's going to be interpreted that way, and perception is reality. Now I get what he was saying. I do. I get that. But that's like me saying, dude, I got to go get my hair cut tomorrow because, these locks, I mean, that's going to miss, right? That's obviously that's going to miss. So, and maybe Kyle is misunderstood. Maybe he is misunderstood. Maybe, to be fair, maybe if he comes out and balls out, right? Let's say he goes for 85, 1,200 yards, 9 TDs. Do you think now these are our Falcons family here, but do you think they accept him and go great, or do you think they think, well, it was a contract year, of course he's going to come out and perform?
You're always going to have those guys like Mark Zeno who are going to be like, well, what's he going to look like not in a contract year? Because that's just
do that again. Do Zeno again.
What's he's not going to be like in a contract year?
That's not a bad Zeno.
That's Zeno. Not a bad Zeno. What Zeno sounds like and does every single time.
That's not a bad Zeno.
But
that's not
who
bad.
cares, right? If he does that, you sign him to the extension, $15 million a year. Again, tight ends don't cost that much money.
Okay.
Top tier guys don't cost that much money at tight end. They're not making $35 million a year like these wide receivers are.
Okay.
So if you can afford Drake and Pitts and Robinson, and then keep supplementing with these mid-tier free agents and draft picks at number 2 wide receiver and number 3 wide receiver and backup running back and all that, why the hell not do it?
Okay. That's fair.
Again, if he's shown with Penix that he can do the same thing he did with Ryan, isn't that what we wanted in the first place? Wouldn't the argument of the quarterback was the issue hold a hell of a lot more weight if that's what happens next year?
Yeah, it would.
And the injury from 2022 as well, like, be like, yeah, I mean, he was injured, and then the quarterbacks were all crazy, and, we blame Marcus Mariota for those 3 lost years of Kyle Pitts. Like, that's basically what would happen.
Okay.
Mariota and Ritter and Heineke would get shit on, and then everybody else would be like, yeah, I mean, he's pretty solid now.
I will give you there are 2 narratives where Kyle is concerned. There's the first narrative that, like you said, he's had so many. He's only had one real quarterback, which was, well, you had Matt Ryan on the last year of his deal. The last year he was here, which, arguably Matt was a shell of himself, but Matt got him the ball. You know what I mean? And he was productive that year. And then after that, it was the cupboard was bare as far as quarterbacks are concerned. And so I could see that. But then there's also the contingent that says, look, I understand that about those quarterbacks, but Kyle has to be where he's supposed to be. And when he's not, it's a problem, right? And it's not like you're not running out one route or two. We've seen it on multiple occasions, multiple years. So I don't know. Maybe the truth somewhere in between. Again, to your point, he's had several different offensive coordinators, right? So, you know,
I mean,
maybe it's
he's had 2 different offensive coordinators, really.
okay. So, first year Matt Ryan, who was that?
Oh, you're talking about Matt Ryan had 7 different offensive coordinators.
No. I'm saying, didn't Kyle at least have 3 offensive coordinators? So who was
2
first year
offensive
Matt Ryan?
coordinators.
Huh? So what?
It was Arthur Smith for 3 years, and then it
Okay.
was Zach Robinson last year.
We didn't have an offensive coordinator doing Arthur Smith. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
but I mean, he was an offensive coordinator in name only, right?
yeah, he called Dave Ragone.
Dave Ragone.
Dave Ragone.
Like,
Okay. All right.
he's a quarter.
Okay.
He was a glorified quarterbacks coach, if we're being honest here.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's fair.
Wasn't even good at that.
I'm not touching that one.
He wasn't.
Right. And that's why you're Scott and I'm not. So we can do a couple of mock drafts, but I wanted to get to this article, right? Because you said something last week that I think was very poignant, and I think you were spot on. But this ESPN analyst does not agree with you. So no. I'm sorry.
So,
Matt Urban from Falcons Wire basically put out an article that a guy from ESPN, which I believe is on the second page because I want to give him credit, Ben Solak, says due to a lack of salary cap space, the Atlanta Falcons weren't very active during NFL free agency. The team attempted to fill needs with affordable free agents, but it was always going to be an uphill battle with Kirk Cousins' contract clogging things up. An argument could be made that the Falcons have lost more than they've added since Week 18 of the 2024 NFL season, which should have been expected. Atlanta's 2 biggest free agent additions were veteran linebacker Leonard Floyd and safety Jordan Fuller. ESPN's Ben Solak was not a fan of the team's moves over the first few weeks of free agency. The Falcons were ranked dead last in a new feature ranking all 32 NFL free agency classes. Now, Scott Karisic, man of the people, man of the salary cap, man of Madden, man of NFL defenses, and master of all. Do you agree with Ben Solak's assessment that, the Falcons free agency sucked and we didn't do anything? Give me your thoughts.
I'll be honest with you. Free agency articles this time of year mean nothing. It's just gap filler while they're waiting for the draft to pop off.
It's conversation fodder.
It's just conversation. It's just people trying to make conversation. Like, honestly, I would put that up in the locker room and be like, they said that you guys suck. I'd put it up on each one of the lockers of every free agent the Falcons signed. Be like, listen, these guys think you suck. I would just treat it like motivation. I wouldn't even
donkey hooters.
Yeah, these guys think you're dog shit. I look at it as they raise the floor of the team. Leonard Floyd raises the floor of the pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Jordan Fuller is a competent safety, which is all Simmons was last year, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have a competent safety replacing a competent safety. You have
Diablo.
Well, yeah, you got Floyd replacing Judon.
Mm-hmm.
And then Divine Diablo, you have a guy who can play in coverage at linebacker, replacing Nate Landman, who sucked in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, it's an upgrade.
And that's what I was thinking, and that's where I wanted to go. You used the word last week, and you said that essentially Terry Fontenot had sprinkled the defense with competent players, which would allow him to go BPA if necessary, which, if I'm interpreting what you're saying, is in direct contrast to what Ben Solak is saying. Now, understand, and I know you do, Scott, because you do this every day. Ben Solak is looking at this from a 360 worldview. He's not taking a granular approach that's to the Falcon, because to the Falcons specifically. So these moves are being made with two things in mind. Number one, Raheem and Jeff working together, utilizing their system, right? And in a lot of ways, what we're really talking about is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? The whole is so these guys together will form an entity on defense that's greater than the names, right? That's essentially what you're saying. So, and I agree. We got to do some housekeeping. Carrie says, "Hi, T. Will and Scott. Miss Carrie, best producer in the world. How you doing? Hopefully, all is well, my friend. Miss Carrie always keeping us on target. Just great person. So give me your thoughts on what we've done so far in this defense, and with the moves that we've made thus far, right? Do you think that we could be?" And really, when you talk about last year's Falcons defense, it's almost a tale of two cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. For the most part, not great. But then there was that 4-week period where we were dominant. Do you think we fall somewhere in the middle? What do you think the ceiling, to use your word, what do you think the ceiling is for this year's upcoming defense, and what is the floor?
So I think the ceiling, obviously, depending on what happens in the draft, is an average level to slightly above average defense. So like 14 to 17 range. I think that's the ceiling, right?
Okay.
You can win a lot of games with that ceiling if your offense is playing like a top 10 offense like this.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can make a Super Bowl. We've seen it before.
It'd be a better defense than what Matt Ryan had his entire career in Atlanta.
It would be. It absolutely would be.
So I'm not even worried about that side of it, right?
Okay.
I think it's going to be a better defense than we've seen here in a long time. That doesn't mean it's going to be a great defense. It's just we had a lot of shit defense the last few years.
Right.
I think the idea was to upgrade the pass rush with a guy who, he may not be the best pass rusher in the league, which apparently everybody thinks the Falcons need, but maybe he's a guy who helps AK take the next step. Maybe he's a guy who gets 10 sacks out there this year. Falcons didn't have a 10-sack guy in like 5 years, right? So he gets 10. Let's say AK gets 10. Let's say those two guys, that's 20 sacks.
That's 20 sacks right there.
That's
which is 11 shorter than what we had all last year. So
exactly. Yeah. So you get those guys with 10, and your interior starting to eat up and get a couple sacks each guy, and then you got a couple rotational guys getting a couple sacks, and all of a sudden, and then Ellis has like 9 on blitzes. Then all of a sudden you've got 50 and a pass rush that looks good and a solid amount of pressure. It's still not the best pass rush in the league, but it's a competent above average or average to above average pass rush, right? The idea that the Falcons are doing this year isn't, hey, let's go out and get free agents and draft picks and all this and all that. It's, hey, we drafted this guy 2 years ago in the 3rd round. Let's use him. Hey, we drafted this guy 3 years ago in the 2nd round. Let's use him. Hey, we drafted this guy last year in the 2nd round and this other guy in the 4th and this other guy in the 3rd. Let's use them too. Hey, we've got these 10 young guys we've drafted over the last 3 to 4 drafts. Maybe we should just fucking use them. And that is what the Falcons are planning on doing this year. And that's what all the moves are showing. They're not showing, hey, we went out and got this nose tackle. Hey, we went out and did this. Hey, we went out and did this and said, hey, no, we got a 2nd round pick that if he can't stay healthy, we need someone who's comparable. That's Divine Diablo. That's Troy Anderson, right? We got another spot where the free agent looks good. He's had a good couple of years. Ellis, he's our main man in the middle. Hey, we've got a pass rusher that we drafted last year and Braylon Trice. We're going to throw him in with this veteran guy, Leonard Floyd. And we're going to have Arnold Ebiketie, and then we're probably going to get someone else in the draft to throw with the group. And that'll be our edge group. All right, now interior. We've got Rook, who we drafted last year, Brandon Dorlus, who we drafted last year. We got Zach Harrison, who we drafted 2 years ago. We got Taquan Graham coming back on a 1-year deal, who we drafted in 2021, the only other 2021 pick that's with this team. who can play in that nose position or play in that 3-tech position. And then we got David Onyemata as the veteran to kind of coach these guys up as a player. Where is the big addition that they need? Or can they just stick with what they have and let these guys kind of figure out life? Let these guys kind of figure out what they want to do instead of worrying about it.
Can we also add to that maybe a better defensive scheme, right?
It's a much better defensive scheme.
You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes, look at in order for a defensive machine to work, all components have to work, right? So you got to coach guys up, you got to develop them, but you also got to give them a scheme that fits them.
Yes.
Right. And again, I'm not trying to be critical. I don't play the game. I certainly don't coach it. I'm looking at it from an outside spectator perspective. But looking at that Falcons defense last year, it was a microcosm for how we have approached rushers, edge rushers, defensive line for 30 years. Right? We have never, with the exception of a few years, Grits Blitz, we've never when golly, what's his name was here in John Abraham, we've never really we haven't developed pass rushers. We haven't drafted pass rushers, and we really haven't schemed for them. So all things being equal, right? I think what they're doing, and I think you're absolutely right. Instead of just drafting guys and putting them someplace, they're saying, look, I got a black shirt. Let me get a black hat to go with it. You know what? I got some black shoes. Let me get a pair of pants that go with these shoes. As opposed to buying 3 more pairs of shoes, how about we take what we have and build on to that? To me, that seems to be what they're doing. In other words, they're saying, we don't necessarily have to go out and sign superstars. Number one, we can't afford it. But if we go out and sign guys that can play in our system and we can coach them up, we can win, because our offense is a complete offense on their side of the ball. And if all things are equal, can be top 10. That's essentially what you're saying, correct?
I'm saying that they see the offense as one that could potentially break into the top 5 this year.
Damn.
With all the pieces they have, they see an offense that could score 28, 29 points a game, 3-4 touchdowns a game, a couple of field goals each game, like really good offense, right? They see the defense as, hey, if we can be average and allow just 22 to 23 points a game, just be league average, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to win 10, 11 games.
10, 11 games. Okay.
No problem.
That's fair.
We might win more than that with a little bit of luck.
Okay.
So that's how they're viewing this team. And they really believe in Penix, which I can't blame them. And they really believe that, hey, if we can get leads in games, we can get pass rush going. Which is that's really all that happened during that run. Right? They got leads, and then the pass rushers turned it on. And I do think that if they get an edge defender in the draft, it's going to be a guy who can play the run and contribute to the pass rush, but is probably more of a run defender now who can eventually contribute to the pass rush versus a guy who's a pass rusher now who's just a designated pass rusher and all that, because they've drafted multiple designated pass rushers and one guy has been okay. And then the others have been either injured or just flailing. So maybe grab a guy who can also play the run and then bring him up. So that's where I think a guy like Mykel Williams could be hey, we're trading down. Mykel's sitting right here. We'll grab him. Or maybe in the second round, Princely Umanmielen is right there. I'm like, you know what? He can pass rush, but he can also play the run, or at least set his edge for right now. So I could see that also being an option.
Okay. That's fair. Let's go ahead and get a draft or two in if we can. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I think I have the site that we did it on last week. So Give me 1 sec. Let me.
My draft database, I think.
I think you know what we're about to find out. We are about to find out.
NFL mock draft database.
Yeah, is that it?
Yep, that's it.
All right, so I've got round 7. What do I do? Hit enter draft room.
Make sure you hit fast, because otherwise you'll sit there and you'll wait for those picks in that last few rounds forever.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to enter the draft room, and
starts at the top.
Let's see. Has it started?
At the top.
Oh, damn. We did that same thing last week, too. Get it together, T-Will. Let's go. All right. We have a trade offer.
Reject that.
All right.
First off, it's with the Panthers, but also no first-round pick this year. Not worth it. Reject it.
Okay. So we didn't like our trade offers. So I guess we're going to do this one without the trade. What do we need? Defense. How do I prioritize defense on here? What do I?
You pick the position. So like
Okay.
DL, Edge, CB, S, and you just
Gotcha.
click on each position.
All right. So we got Jalen Walker. We got Mike Green. We got James Pierce Jr. We got Donovan Ezraku. You want to go edge here? You want to look at linebackers?
Look at defensive line.
Okay.
Got
we got your boy Kenneth Grant.
Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon. Look at linebacker real quick. Just see who's there. Got Jahad
Campbell.
And then corner, who's there?
Will Johnson.
Jade
right. Barron.
So go back to all real quick.
Okay.
So yeah, Armand Membu is sitting right there. He could be a possibility. Jalen Walker, I mean, if he's there, he's a possibility, right? He's a blue chip guy. And he's a right tackle for a reference. Jalen Walker, I don't see him being there, but he could also be the guy if he's there.
Okay.
Will Johnson could also be the guy. These are all guys they've shown interest in. Scroll down just a little bit.
Okay.
They've shown a lot of interest in Jahad. They've shown interest in Jade. They've shown interest in Mike Green. All these guys that they've been showing interest in, right? They've shown interest in Starks. They've shown interest in Kenneth Grant. So it's not like these are guys that you notice all these guys that they're showing interest in are all the guys that are showing up right here in the simulator, right?
Yep.
It's not some conspiracy theory. It's not anything like that. It's, hey, we're interested in the guys that are going to be there at our pick that kind of fit what we do. So I'm going to let you make this pick.
Oh, man. Whoa. Oh, okay. Well, if you're going to let me do it, now, if you're going to let me do it, Scott, I'm going Jalen Walker.
Okay.
Yeah,
go for it.
I'm drafting Jalen Walker. All right.
So while we're waiting, I'll go over why I would have gone elsewhere.
Okay.
But it has nothing to do with me thinking that Jalen Walker is a bad prospect or anything. I just have him with a second-round grade. I think he is a bit of a project. I don't think he's ready right away to contribute, unless you're just basically saying, hey, from a 9 technique or from a 34 outside linebacker role or from that Caden Ellis, just line up wherever and blitz kind of thing. I think he's another Caden Ellis type guy.
Okay.
Now, Ellis is 30 years old. So if the Falcons want a Caden Ellis type guy in their middle of their defense, that would not shock me to see them go Jalen Walker if he's there.
Okay.
I think he fits, a lot of different schemes. But I think if they're going to go Jalen Walker early, they need to go with a slightly different thought process at 46.
Okay. We just happen to be at 46. What's the thought process we need to go with?
Fat boys.
Fat boys it is.
So
Did you
defensive line.
say defensive lineman?
And there's a guy there that really fits what they would want as a nose tackle. And it's not Darius Alexander, who's 295 pounds.
Tyleek Williams?
Tyleek Williams. Dancing Bear.
Tyleek it is.
You want a guy who can come right in, rotate in at that nose tackle spot, play in the base defense, hold up that middle of the offensive line, and give you a lot of open lanes for your linebackers, your pass rushers. Again, pass rush is a team sport. Pass rush is like basketball. Got to have that center. Tyleek Williams is that center.
Gotcha.
100% that center.
Gotcha.
So, if you go with an edge like Jalen Walker, who's undersized and in that linebacker mold, you got to get a big, fat defensive tackle to offset the loss of size.
Got you. Okay.
Definitely reject that. Go back to all. This is day 3.
Yep.
What are you supposed to do on day 3?
BPA?
Best player available at a position that you could use depth or some sort of special teams or anything like that. Kevin Winston could work, but scroll down a little bit. There's a guy named Charles Grant, I think, right there. The Falcons have shown interest in Charles Grant. He's being brought in for a top 30 visit. He can play right tackle. He can play center. He can play guard. He can play left tackle. He's one of the few guys in this draft that you could use anywhere on the offensive line.
Okay.
I don't think long-term he plays center. I think long-term he's a guy you could use as a right tackle. He's a former high school wrestler. Leverage is great. Has the nastiness that you'd expect from a former high school wrestler. And if the Falcons do what I think they're going to do in the 4th round, which is take an offensive lineman to compete at center or right tackle, I think Charles Grant's kind of that guy.
Okay, Charles Grant it is.
Notice no defensive backs so far. Front 7 linemen. Front 7 linemen. I think they're going to focus on the front 7 and the offensive line in the draft this year.
Well, it starts up front. Just ask the Eagles. It starts up front. So
Fat boys win championships.
That's what I've heard. I've heard a wise man say that. So we got Malachi Moore at safety at pick 218. Give me your thoughts on him.
I love Malachi Moore. If I'm Terry Fontenot right now in this situation, and I go, I took a right tackle, I took a nose tackle, I took an edge. I really could use a guy at center, like Willie Lampkin. I could also use some depth at safety. What should I do? What's more important?
I'm going to say the center.
I would go with the center.
Center it is.
All right.
We got an edge, a defensive lineman, wide receiver, cornerback. We haven't taken a corner.
Haven't taken a corner. Can always use depth there.
What are your thoughts on Mello Dotson?
I mean, he's a 7th round cornerback. Like, I mean, honestly, I view him as a 5th-round cornerback, right? I think he's a little bit better than a 7th-round guy. I think he's the guy you could probably put out there and have compete for the nickel. He's got safety size at 6 foot, 195. But he's got some coverage questions. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a guy from South Carolina I like a good bit better at corner named O'Donnell Fortune. He's a playmaker. He gets after the ball. He creates from the slot or from outside. That'd be more what I would do than Mello Dotson. Mello Dotson's more that Dan Quinn, you don't care if he's getting interceptions corner.
Okay.
O'Donnell Fortune is your, hey, this guy wants the damn ball kind of corner.
All right, so Odell Fortune it is. And as always, when I do drafts with you, I've never gotten a C. So let me go ahead and take a screenshot of this. I do that so I can impress Jack later and make him think they're my picks. Yes, Scott. Yes, I do that. I'm ashamed to admit, but I do.
You did grab one of those picks.
Okay. Well, yeah, but I grabbed it because I saw you pick them last week. Or I saw you talk about them last week. But
I talked about them.
You know what? Hey, I'm going to keep doing it, and maybe 2 years from now I'll be able to, or maybe 5. I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to do just a little bit of what you do. You got time for one more?
Absolutely. Let's do one more.
All right. You do this one because you're much better at it. Did I save that? Yeah. Oh man, what are we doing?
Just hit refresh.
What are we doing here? What do you mean the site can't be reached? Okay. Well, let's go here and let's go back here. Oh boy. What are we?
Let me just check something here.
You stop that. Let me do this. That's weird.
It's working for me. I'll send you the link.
All right. Could not be found. Let me make sure I'm connected.
You might be on the wrong. You might be like trying. Oh, weird.
I'm connected. That's weird. I wonder if that triggered a firewall.
Oh,
that's what I'm thinking it did. I'm thinking when I did that, you know what? Geez. All right, let me I think that went awry of my firewall when I did that, whatever that did.
Yeah, go to the website and then you should be able to
find
I'm
it. Here. All right, I'm here.
At the top under quick links.
Right
at the top of the screen.
Top of the screen, team mocks.
Just under that. So just mock under the next line where it says quick links. So go out of that menu.
Right there. Okay, I see it.
It says mock draft simulator.
There we go. All right. Falcons. And you said fast. I do remember that. And enter draft. There we go. And start is up top.
Yep.
I'm going to say no. These are all 2026, right? I'm going to say no to that.
Say no to that.
All right.
Yep. Ted McMillan's right there. Falcons don't need a wide receiver.
No, they don't.
He does.
Who?
You know who needs a number one?
Who?
The Chargers.
So we're going to propose a trade?
Propose a trade to the Chargers.
And how would I go about doing that?
In the top of the screen. Right next to where it says auto draft, click on trade. Click on 115 from Atlanta. And then scroll to the Chargers on that. Should be under LAC.
Okay.
then hit 122, 386, 125, and then scroll all the way down on their 6th round picks and just not all the way down on their 6th round picks. Just click 214. Just to throw in a 6th round pick, right?
Okay.
They got 11 picks. They can afford to lose one of their 4 6th round picks.
Okay.
And hit trade. Let them take Tat McMillan, and then now hit reject. And reject. And reject. So now you're at 22. You got Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron, and Jahad Campbell right there, sitting basically at the top of your board. What do you think makes the most sense, right? If I'm here, I'm going Jahad Campbell because I have him higher rated than Johnson or Barron. I think he's a stud. I think he's that Luke Kuechly level player.
Okay. Then Jahad Campbell it is.
Yeah. Positional value only means something if the player's good, right?
Yep.
So give me Jahad Campbell because he's a good player. Go ahead and hit reject on all the trades from here on. All right. We're at 46. There's a guy who probably should have gone much earlier staring us right in the face, and Donovan Easy.
That's where we're going, buddy.
Take him. And then you've got Jahad Campbell, Donovan Easy. You've added a linebacker to help your coverage. You've added a pass rusher with a lot of different moves and a pass rush plan that you can combine with all the guys you currently have and have a really fun group in the middle, or fun group getting after the pass rusher. Look at defensive linemen real quick. So I don't see the guy that I think is really worth it right here.
Okay.
I like TJ Sanders, but maybe we just hold off on that for now. Go to inside offensive lineman, IOL. Maybe we find our center here. Well, Jared Wilson's right there. He's a really good center. He fits what the Falcons like. Very athletic player. Be a long-term captain for this offensive line. Could compete to start this year, even as a 3rd-round pick. I would snap up Jared Wilson in a heartbeat.
Jared Wilson it is.
So right now, offensive lineman, linebacker, edge, really building the fronts. Now go back to defensive lineman. There's a guy who I'm hoping is still here, and he is. Perfect. CJ West from Indiana. 6'2", 315-pounder. He's a really good football player. He's a 1-tech, 3-tech kind of guy. He's going to be the guy who eats that double team in the pass rush, who's powerful, throwing around centers and guards, while Rook gets those single teams inside. And have a really fun group right there.
All right.
So hit all real quick.
All right.
So you got front 7, you got your starting center. You're honestly doing okay. At this point, maybe you look towards the defensive backs. Maybe you look towards the offensive tackle position for the long term. But let's look at who's the best player available as well.
All right. Let's look at all.
So scroll down just a little bit. Got some good names here, some solid players. Maybe you double up. But I see a guy who shouldn't be on this board, who is, in Kobe Bryant.
So we're going to take him.
Going to take him. He can play slot. He can play outside. He can compete at safety if you need him to. Complete defensive back. I don't know why he's there in the 4th.
Okay.
I think he goes much higher on actual draft day.
Okay.
He's a hell of a football player. And he's a good tackler, which for a corner, even though that's kind of like a throw-in, that's an important piece. So got some girth in the middle, got some pass rush, got some linebacking. At this point, you can look at depth. So Malachi Moore here makes a heck of a lot more sense. Yeah, Lampkin's there, but you got Jared Wilson, right? So Go ahead and take Moore. Now hear me out. Hold on one second. Hear me out. The kickoff return rule just changed. So you're going to have touchbacks at the 35 now. So because of that, you need a good kickoff returner.
Okay.
And even though Jadon Blue may not be known as a kickoff returner completely, he's known as more of a complete running back. His skill set translates really well into being a kickoff returner in the modern NFL. He runs a 4.38 in the 40 at running back. He's got ridiculous speed. And he's a hell of a football player once he's got the ball in his hands. You got that Texas connection with Bijan Robinson.
Yep.
And then let's say after this year, Algiers gone. Who's taking his snaps in the offense?
Jadon Blue, apparently, because we just took him.
Jadon Blue. And listen, it may not be, you're not always looking for an ideal fit, right? You're just looking for a guy who can contribute. But if you got a plan for these guys, right? Jahad Campbell, there's the plan. Career Mike. Donovan Easy. He's not just, your plan for him is first year, he's coming in, he's a pass rush specialist. After that, you teach him how to guard the run, all that. Jared Wilson, competing for center, starting at center long term. CJ West, he's your nose tackle in base. He's that one tech, right? Kobe, he's competing for time at corner, and then long term, he's at least your slot corner. Malachi Moore, he's your special teams ace, 7th round pick, special teams ace, backup at safety, right? Basically what DeMarco Helms is. You now just have 2 DeMarco Helms. Guys who can play starting center or starting safety if they need to, but honestly is really your special teams and depth guy. Jadon Blue, 7th round pick, running back. You got a plan for him. Future rotational back and kick returner, punt returner. So here in the 7th round, you want to go best player you can get and scroll down just a little bit because my board's a little different than theirs. But if we're going off my board, I like Jack Nelson.
Okay.
Jack Nelson is a right tackle, long-term in the NFL, right tackle, who could learn how to play in the Falcon scheme. He may not be the most, what's the word? He's not the most agile of all the tackles, but he's got good technique.
How are his feet? I guess would be my question.
His feet are good. Like his agility isn't as good as his feet, if that makes sense. He's more of a technical masterpiece than a height, weight, speed guy.
Okay. Makes sense.
Like he's not a dude who's running a 4.3 in the 40 or even a 4.9 in the 40. He's more like your 5.2 guy in the 40. He's like your 4.6, 4.7 guy in the shuttle. But he's not tripping over himself. He's not having his body's not flailing around out there. And then in the run game, he's playing with the nastiness.
Gotcha. Well, we like nastiness in the run game. Shout out to Tyson Claybo, wherever you are, buddy.
That's
Shout out.
Who I'm comparing Jack Nelson to. Is mediocre college career, has all the tools, didn't really put it together until like 3 or 4 years into his pro career. Like Jack Nelson might be that guy, and that's okay. Again, when you're taking a guy in the 7th round, you're taking them for depth and with a future plan. You're not taking them to be a starter right away. Anybody who's expecting a day 3 guy to start right away is probably expecting too much. Every day 3 guy you take should be maybe contribute in a rotation on a line or defensive line, like defensive line or edge or wide receiver but special teams is what day 3 is for. They got to contribute on that rotation and play special teams.
Gotcha.
So,
okay. Well, hey, Scott, this was fun. As always, man, I learned so much from you. My head hurts. Like, I wish I could take notes while you're talking, because I think I'm going to rename you the professor when it comes to, just all things football. I do have a question for you. And that, I'm frozen, aren't I? Okay.
Nope, you're good.
I'm no longer frozen. All right. I do have a question for you. Is there a way, maybe next week, that we can take a look at the defenses? So I know in our earlier conversations, you said basically there were 3 packages that the Falcons run out of base defense. Can we take a look at each defense and look at the techniques of the defensive line, and break down like who's the 1 tech, 3 tech, whatever, and then the position of the linebackers and a safety? Because I think that our crowd would benefit from that. A lot of the feedback that I get from our shows is that, number one, you're the talent and I'm the backup singer, and that's fine. I can do that. No, in all seriousness, what I get is that they learn so much from you. Like, you are so knowledgeable that they learn so much from you. So I'd like to kind of delve into that and really take a look at defenses and how they run. Also, I have a few buddies that
I got a playbook I can draw some stuff up in for you.
That would be awesome. Also, if you give Madden lessons or whatever, I got a few buddies who's I've written some checks that my ass can't catch. Like, I know I'm gonna get my ass whooped. So, maybe we'll talk offline about that. But I do need some help at strategies, because I've got a guy I'm working with. I've been talking trash to him for about 6 months, and I'm gonna have to play him eventually, and I have no chance. So, maybe offline we can talk about that. And in all seriousness, Scott, thank you. Wealth of knowledge. Appreciate it. Learned a lot today. Jack is going to be so impressed when I take everything that you taught me and present it as though I thought of it. No, just kidding. So no, man, I appreciate it. Tell these folks where they can find you. And just so you know, man, I'm getting rave reviews on you. Reviews on you. So no, they love it. That's the point. They love it, and they love you. But no, seriously, tell these folks where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Karasik S. And then on Blue Sky at Karasik.bskysocial. And yeah, I don't really post as much on Blue Sky, but I'm probably going to start a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, either one.
All right.
I'm always down to talk football.
Cool. Well, I didn't, I didn't shout out my guy A1. A1, how you doing, man? What up, fam? Enjoying the show. A1 says, let's go. Take him. And I took him in the 3rd after the trading block myself, after trading back myself.
I think he was talking about Jared Wilson there, because Jared Wilson is he fits what the Falcons do. And I think you froze up a little bit there. I think T-Will froze a little bit. So yeah, okay. So T-Will froze a little bit. I don't really have a way to stop the show, so I don't know what to do in this situation. So bear with me. But I think if I leave studio, it closes it out.
Guys, if you're there, I apologize. Apparently, my device rebooted in the midst of it, so I am so sorry. I will have to apologize to Scott. To everyone that joined us, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Again, guys, apologize. I've never had that happen before, but my system actually crashed and rebooted. So, again, to everybody who enjoyed the show, thank you. Apologize for the shutdown and whatever happened. But we'll see you next week. Again, you can come to For My ATL Sports 1 at YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe. And yeah, thank you to everyone who joined. You could have been anywhere in the world. You chose to be with us. Appreciate that. And you guys have an amazing day. Last but not least, thank you to God for waking me up this morning, all you do. And really last but not least, thank you to Jack Spade and Mr. Eric Parker for giving me my shot in this business. Again, apologize, guys. I don't know what happened. My system just shut down and rebooted. I don't know why. But you guys have an amazing day. Thank you so much. And I will see you tomorrow evening on One Time for the Fan. You guys have an amazing day. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.